Hey y'all, it's Michelle from the Hudson Family Homestead. Happy Purim. Today is the Feast of Purim. It began last night, March 2nd at sundown, and ends tonight, Tuesday night at sundown. And today is March the 3rd. If you don't know what Purim is, it's the Feast of Lots. It is not an ordained feast it's not mandatory to celebrate it. Purim, the Feast of Lots, is a movable Jewish holiday celebrated on the 14th day of the month of Adar, a date that falls in either February or March, a day of great rejoicing. It commemorates the deliverance of the Jews in Shushan, the capital of Persia, modern-day Iran, from a plot to destroy them. The story is told in the book of Esther, one of the 5 Megillah scrolls of the Tanakh. The Tanakh is the Hebrew Bible. That's what they call the Hebrew Bible, that are read on 5 different Jewish holidays. The story begins as King Ahasuerus, commonly identified with Xerxes I, decides to depose his queen, Vashti, because she refuses to obey him. During his search for a successor to Vashti, many beautiful young women are presented to him. Finally, the king selects Esther, an orphan, originally named Hadassah, brought up by her cousin Mordecai. The fact that both are Jews is not known by Ahasuerus. At this time, the king's prime minister, Haman, holds a parade through the streets of Shushan. Everyone who sees Haman is required to bow down before him, and all obey except Mordecai, who says that as a Jew, he must bow only before God. This enrages Haman, who convinces King Ahasuerus that the Jews are a useless and disloyal people and should be exterminated. Haman draws lots, which is pretty much like dice, casting dice. Haman draws lots, or in the Hebrew word or term, Purim, to fix the date for the slaughter of the Jews and for the confiscation of Jewish property. When Mordecai hears of the cruel proclamation, he persuades Queen Esther to undertake the deliverance of her people. She directs a fast of 3 days by all Jews, including herself, after which she is to go before the king, although the queen is not expected to appear before him unless summoned, or they could be killed. Esther's appearance delights the king, who receives her graciously and promises to dine with her and Haman on 2 successive nights. On the night after the first banquet, the king, sleepless, orders the national records read aloud to him. The part that is read, tells of the revelation by Mordecai of a plot against the king's life, a service for which Mordecai has never been rewarded. Upon hearing this, the king calls his prime minister, Haman, and asks him what shall be done to the man whom the king delighteth to honor. Haman, selfishly, narcissistic, thinking that the king means to honor him, he suggests a pageant through the streets of Shushan, at which a great noble shall attend the honored man. Thereupon, the king orders a pageant in honor of Mordecai and commands Haman, who is appalled at this turn of events to attend Mordecai. He will set a table before your enemies. The next night at the second banquet, Esther reveals to the king that she is a Jew and begs him to rescind the order for the destruction of her and her people. The king, realizing the extent of Haman's plot, changes his mind and orders that Haman and all his sons be hung on the gallows that Haman had prepared for Mordecai. In addition, Ahasuerus appoints Mordecai his prime minister and issues an order permitting the Jews to slay their enemies on the day that the Jews themselves were to have been killed. When the time comes, the Jews kill 75,000 Persians. Then, as the book of Esther records in chapter 9, verses 20 through 28, Mordecai sent letters unto all the Jews that were in all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month of Adar, and the 15th day of the same, yearly, as the days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of fasting and feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. And the Jews undertook to do as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the enemy of all the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pure lots, dice, that is, the lot, to consume them and to destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that Haman's wicked device, which is devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hung on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur. The Jews ordained and took upon them that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year, and that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation. Today, modern day, Jews celebrate Purim as prescribed in the book of Esther. It is a day of feasting and rejoicing. The festival meal, which begins in late afternoon on Adar 14, may extend until late in the evening. In cities that were walled at the time of Joshua, most notably Jerusalem, Purim is celebrated a day later on Adar 15, in recognition of the fact that the killing of enemies in the walled city of Shushan lasted for an extra day. Unlike most other Jewish holidays, Purim has no marked religious features other than the portrayal of Esther's loyalty to her people and her courage. Observances of Purim include 2 readings of the book of Esther, one on the eve of Purim and once on the following day, giving gifts of money to the poor and of food to friends, and a feast that typically includes wine and other alcoholic beverages. The Talmud the Hebrew Bible states that on the day of Purim, Jews should drink wine until they cannot tell the difference between blessed be Mordecai and cursed be Haman. Eat, drink, and be merry, I guess. Of all holidays in the Jewish calendar, Purim is the most festively and joyously celebrated, commemorating not just a long ago political victory, but the full experience of being Jewish. Celebrants, particularly children, often dress up in costumes and masks, and in Israel, the day is typically marked by carnivals and parades. Often, celebrants perform Purim plays or skits known as spiels, put on to mock authority figures. Some scholars note that although the story was likely intended as a comedy fantasy or even a defiant fan fiction, this account of violence in the Book of Esther has at times been taken literally to detrimental real world effect. I do. Some Jews called for a re-examination of the holiday and reflection on the impetus to enact revenge in light of the war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza that began after Hamas's October 7, 2023 attack on Israeli civilians. Others found solace in its survival narrative among rising anti-Semitism. God bless Israel. God bless Iran. God bless Iraq. God bless all of the nations of this world. Happy Purim, that's the Feast of Lights. Have a blessed day. Know that I love you, but Jesus loves you so much more. Till the next time.